All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about Vasyl Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. and things that Vasyl Lomachenko had to say about the fight that he wants with Gervonta Tank Davis. Let's talk about that in this video. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Before I get into the subject matter of the video, make sure that you support our sponsor, busr.ag/Fanon. You will get a free $22 to bet on any sport that you choose to bet on if you use the promotional code Fanon. For the current promotion at the time of this video, there will also be other specials available. Also, make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff for the video. All right, man, so let's get into it. We are talking about the lightweight division. Most definitely one of the hottest divisions in boxing. You have George Kambosos, who may or may not be the undisputed champion of the lightweight division. Gervonta Tank Davis, who's probably the biggest star of the division. Devin Haney, who is probably one of the best fighters in the division, getting the shaft by the WBC, should be considered the WBC champion. If Teofimo Lopez is still there, Ryan Garcia, and of course the perennial champion. Well, I don't know, would you call him perennial champion at this point in time, but long time pound for pound top guy, the Ukrainian Vasyl Lomachenko. In 2022, I am looking forward to a very good year for the lightweight division, also the welterweight division. The heavyweight division is almost impossible for it to be good in, but in the glory divisions in boxing, which I think lightweight is probably the number 4 division in boxing after heavyweight, then welterweight, then middleweight. I would say then comes the lightweight division. I think we could have a really, really good year. And Vasyl Lomachenko, the Ukrainian that is represented by Top Rank, is definitely talking about trying to make it so. He wants 2 fights in 2022. The first one, I do believe, would be a shot against George Kambosos for what many people would consider to be the undisputed championship of the world. And then the other is against the big money man, Gervonta Tank Davis, who Vasyl Lomachenko would like to fight, but says definitely takes a shot at Floyd Mayweather Jr. and says, look, I would love to have that fight, but Gervonta Tank Davis is protected by Floyd Mayweather Jr., and Floyd Mayweather Jr. is not going to let Gervonta Davis fight anybody that he thinks he can that they think can beat him. So even though he wants it, he says pretty much takes a shot and says what a lot of people have been saying about Gervonta Davis over the last few years, or pretty much through the whole of his career, that they're not trying to put him in risky fights. Now, this is where I think I disagree with Vasyl Lomachenko for the year 2022. In the year 2021, I would say, yeah, I believe that could be a little bit of the case. In 2020, definitely. 2019, definitely. 2019, 2020, they were trying to bring up Gervonta Tank Davis. If you looked at in some of the things where I'm thinking they were trying to bring him up, was waiting for him to be mentally mature enough really to handle the big fights. And you can see that a lot has changed, and there's been a lot of maturity growing for Gervonta Davis over those years. Gervonta Davis, when he's at 130, when he first got to 135 pounds, would really blow up in weight. Man, the guy would look like the Pillsbury Doughboy in between fights, and have to lose a lot of weight to get down to fight weight. That's not happening anymore. He's making his weight for 135 easily, and he's not blowing up in between fights. So I think from that angle, he is becoming a more mature fighter. Also, I think with his age and the improvement that he has made in the ring, and I think you could see that even in the Isaac Cruz fight, or Isaac Cruz fight, where he fought that fight with his hand, with a hurt hand, you could really tell, man, that dude is an all-around fighter, and he proved that he knows how to overcome adversity, and showed it in that fight. So Where I think before they may have been doing a little bit of that. I think primarily in 2021, it was less about them thinking that he couldn't win as much it is those guys trying to make really big fights. And Leonard Ellerbe, I'm telling you, man, the guy, you do not have to agree with everything Mayweather has to do, Mayweather says or does with their fighters. But when Leonard Ellerbe says something that speaks on it, the man is telling the truth. So it's kind of hard for me to hold anything against him other than to say, hey, I don't like how the cookie crumbles. But he's like, look, man, this is a business. Some of these guys that you want me to fight, want Gervonta Davis to fight, are going to be very, very expensive. And since they're so expensive, we're not about to lose money on these fights. So, those fights more than likely aren't happening. And he's talking about the Devin Haney fight. The George Kambosos fight, I think, is expensive because of the belts associated with it, and almost 30 per. What is it like? What is it? They get 12%. I think the four sanctioned bodies would take like 12% of the purse, the total purse of the fight, of the percentages of the purses for the fight, not the gate and all that, but I think of the purses. So it is expensive, but I think that with Vasyl Lomachenko, that there may hopefully be a difference, something that has changed. One, Vasyl Lomachenko is a big name fighter and is probably the biggest fight that Gervonta Davis can have at 135 pounds. As far as, what the fight, as far as the credibility he would get from winning the fight, and probably also as far as drawing and making it a really big fight if they wanted to put it on pay-per-view. I think the combination of those two guys, man, would probably make one of the biggest fights of the year. Vasyl Lomachenko, and this is something that you see happen a lot in boxing, is where you have a young guy who's coming up and you have an older guy that's kind of coming down, that the matchmakers from the promoter will eventually say, okay, now is the time to fight this guy. He's looking good. As far as like Vasyl Lomachenko, like for example, Vasyl Lomachenko, he's got a couple wins, but he definitely looks vulnerable. The fact that he looked vulnerable, a little bit of time has passed, we're getting stronger, let's take the fight now. I really do think that is an opportunity, that is a good chance that may be the case with Mayweather Promotions if they look carefully at that fight, that the money would be there. Also, Vasyl Lomachenko kind of slacking a little bit. I think that is there. Not slacking, but, the guy is 35 years old. He's cutting. He does not look as quick as he has before. Obviously, he looked good against Richard Comey and he looked good against Nakatani. But those guys were basically, I wouldn't say journeyman level fighters, but those are gatekeeper level fighters that Vasyl Lomachenko beat. I don't think that those are top-notch fighters. That's definitely not like a Shakur Stevenson. That's not, a Gervonta Davis. It's not a Devin Haney level fighter. I think all of those guys beat both Nakatani and Richard Comey, and not in much less spectacular fashion than Vasyl Lomachenko did. So, what I'm hoping that even though, I understand what Vasyl Lomachenko is saying, the fact that he wants to fight, and if he gets the undisputed from George Kambosos, I think that there's a good chance that we might actually get that fight in 2022. I'm sure that Top Rank, who's the other party to that, is going to is more than likely going to be willing to cash out on Vasyl Lomachenko coming soon. And I don't know exactly who they have in their roster that they can do that with, right? You have Shakur Stevenson coming up, he said he's not coming up to fight Vasyl Lomachenko at 135. He's staying at 130 and wants to be unified at 130. And then Teofimo Lopez is out of the weight division. I don't know what other options Bob Arum would have with Vasyl Lomachenko at 135 pounds, other than maybe trying to move up Oscar Valdez or somebody to fight Lomachenko. But if Lomachenko fights Oscar Valdez, I think Vasyl Lomachenko at any age, within the next 3-4 years is going to beat Oscar Valdez. But that's just my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.